Welcome back to the Pick 199 podcast, episode 63. I'm here with Muzzy,
Hey.
Nako,
Stop.
and we have special guest, newly sacked Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjær down the bottom there.
Look at that.
How are you, Ollie?
How good is that? You're a real fuckwit, Roscoe. Balls, mate.
Well, let's
bastard.
start this week's results on a high. We had the Chelsea-Leicester game happen, and we had Chelsea coming out 3-0 victors over Leicester. Really good performance by the boys. I was really happy with this one. Finally, I feel as though I'm always riding them for not scoring enough goals, and 3-0 I'll every day of the week. Kante just looked absolutely phenomenal.
And with Lukaku out, I think he's second week out now, isn't it?
Yeah. So Werner was starting up front.
Yeah.
Werner's been playing fairly well as well. So
yeah. Havertz playing awesome. Have to say I really am shocked by this Leicester team. And I know Chelsea's, at the moment they're looking like the best team in terms of form. Have not looked close to dropping a game. But at the same time, I really thought Leicester would put up a bigger fight. I really thought this was going to be close to the game of the round. It was just very lackluster. I don't know what's happened. In the off season, I know we talked about when we did that transfer wrap up that they haven't done much signings, but they still got a quality team.
Great team there. They should be.
It's just. I really think Damari Gray was a big let go, and I think that it has hurt them. And missing out on a couple of really impactful wingers and relying on the likes of Harvey Barnes and some of the other younger boys that sort of haven't established themselves yet, I think has really played a bit of an impact on Leicester at the moment.
I still think Calvin Phillips is still struggling a bit after the Euros too. He just he was really good in the Euros and then just hasn't transferred that form across.
Calvin Phillips that plays for Leeds.
Oh yeah.
One.
I'll take that.
Tielemans is their centre mid.
Yeah.
Tielemans and Didi, they've been struggling a little bit, but as well. So.
He looked indeed he was on ice skates all game.
Yeah.
Didn't look like he was getting close to the ball. But I think that
it's hard. It is hard. When you got to match up against Kante, who's arguably the best centre mid maybe in the world at the moment. It's really hard to match up against him. And for me, he's got to be. For me, he'd be the Ballon d'Or winner this year. I think there's not a player that comes close to touching him, especially in the midfield. He has been just light years ahead of everyone, and even for France.
And he has been for years too. It's not like it's been a 1 year wonder sort of thing. It's been year in, year out.
Yeah.
I think he started slow this year, and everyone was saying indeed he was the next best central defensive mid in the game. But I think this just sort of shows that how far ahead Kante is above everyone else in terms of central defensive mids.
Yeah.
Apart from probably Rodri and Man City, but yeah, no, very good win for Chelsea, and I'll take that every day of the week. Vardy was looking pretty slow too. I thought he's starting to, his age is starting to get to him.
Yeah, I think they were just underutilizing him. Not enough ball trying to be played through Tielemans. I mean, Tielemans he's a great young player. James Maddison came on, I think, 60th minute or something. Couldn't really generate anything. You sort of need him to start. It's worrying signs for Leicester. I hope they can turn it around because they should be very competitive with that team.
When you think how much they used Maddison last year?
Have they started this poor before, Leicester?
Have they?
Have they started this poor before?
Since they've moved up into the Prem?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
From memory, I feel like they've always done well every year. They've always
since they've been up, they've always started really well. And that first season when they came up to win the Prem, the key was they started the game like the first 9 games or something undefeated or something.
Yeah.
So I think when we say poor, like they're still very competitive and they're still a top 10 team. I'm not sure what they are on the table, but I think they're still quite high up there.
Yeah.
But it just seems like the form's very up and down, which is very unlike Leicester. They normally give you the same performance every week and you just got to beat them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the only reason it's worrying times for me. I mean, because they're a super competitive team and it's great to see them up there. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, they got Johnny Evans in centre-back, you know, and then they're just trying to shift other centre-backs and outside backs around him, and I don't think it's really working. But I think the real issue is going forward. I don't think the defence is a real massive issue for them. I think the issue is going forward. They got to find some wingers that can generate something.
Yeah, well, that's it. When you think about them, like they weren't a defensive-based team. They were goal-scoring machines, sort of thing. Like with Vardy and all those guys, and like Madison putting it through for him.
Yeah.
Like remember last year,
last year
we were saying singing Madison's praises for like his free kicks and stuff. Like,
you got to think it was Mahrez, it was Kante. Like you had an absolutely stacked team, just able to play forward, and then they sort of haven't reloaded the best they could so far. So,
very good. Well, let's move on. We had Liverpool getting the 4-0 win over Arsenal. Liverpool looked really good, really competitive game for the first half. Actually, first half was really competitive, but then Liverpool just turned up the heat and burnt Arsenal.
Yeah, you come out after half time, you put 3 goals.
3 really quick goals too.
Yeah, so we did one in the 53rd minute, a couple in the 70s. But it sort of just blew it out in the end. It's really good to see Liverpool starting to attack from the back again. I think having Virgil back, I think it adds so much, even though you don't necessarily see him on the goal scorer sheet every week. Like, he just gives you so much more attacking ability, but because he allows your outside men to do so much more. So
I was just about to say, Trent Alexander-Arnold's allowed to get into the game more now.
And like he's a completely different player this year to what he was last. Like last year, his spot in the team was at jeopardy.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, he's considered to be at least one of the best right backs in the world, like in England. So it's amazing what I think it starts with Virgil. To tell you the truth, I think he gives Alexander-Arnold so many more options, and then he makes Mo Salah look heaps better. And yeah, for me, it starts from the back. So, no, we're looking all right. And these are the games that we need to win good, and we need to win solid like this. And in the past, we normally draw too many of these games. And that's been Liverpool's problem for probably 3-4 years. So we draw too many games that we should win. So
we'll give credit to Arsenal. They came up against a Liverpool team that was way more experienced. Played a lot more, and I think that experience showed through that second half. You got a team full of winners that in that second half showed that basically the youth of Arsenal, like this is how you win games. And I think Arsenal will probably be better off with this. They came into the game with great form, and they just met a team that was in way better form.
Yeah,
like that Liverpool were just
way better.
Yeah.
They
were that step ahead. Even when that game was competitive, Liverpool just looked like they could take the lead at any second at that start. Like just really blow out the game. And it just showed the difference in class of players. Like it only takes a few chances, while Arsenal need to generate, numerous chances, which they can with that strong midfield that they've designed now. But even though it's a 4-0 loss, if I'm an Arsenal fan, and the form that they're currently being in, where they're headed, the way they're playing, they're looking really good.
Yeah, well, the other thing I'd say is I don't think that scoreline reflects how well Arsenal played too. Like we said, a few quick goals, and I will give credit to Aaron Ramsdale too. Like he had some absolutely class touches on, like to stop Liverpool from scoring, and it only took really good goals for them to get there too. So I will give them credit on that front. But as much as I hate to, because they're fucking Arsenal. But let's move on. We had Wolves getting a 1-0 win over West Ham. West Ham again, not continuing on that form that they had, where they were winning tough games and dropping games like this.
They come off one of the best games in their recent history with their win over Liverpool, and then they put this performance out. Like, if you want to be considered like a top 4, top 3 team, these are the games that you got to win. Like, beating Liverpool's not always going to be enough. Like,
well, that's it.
You do it against all the teams in the Premier League, not just the top ones.
And considering how poor Wolves have been of late too, like they haven't been great, so you would expect not expect to win, but at least be much more competitive in that regard.
I have to say though, for the Wolves, I think since they had that, it was a couple of weeks ago now, and they had that win where the young Korean boy got the double. They've turned a corner really quietly. They're not blowing teams out of the park, but those tight games that they were losing at the start, they're winning now, which is super good for them. And it's really good to see, because those real grindy games that they just couldn't seem to get a foothold in, now they seem to be taking control of them quite easily. So good to see for Wolves, disappointing for West Ham. They'll bounce back. I think they're another top team that will continue to play hard.
Absolutely. And moving on, we've got the biggest game. I would say the biggest sort of shock result out of this week was Watford getting the 4-1 win over Man United. Ollie, what have you got to say for that performance?
Oh yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks, Corey. You're a funny guy. This influence to life's really taking you to a different level with your comedy, mate. I love it.
Donny Van Beek. You look pretty similar to Donny.
What was that, mate? Donny Van
You
Beek.
look a bit like Donny.
Look, if you were to tell me, like, looking at the games United had ahead of them, all those tough games, and this was the easiest game in that list of games we had to play, and you tell me we're going to get clapped 4-1, I probably would have believed you actually at a certain point. But you expect if you're a team like United and you're the team that United want to be, you expect to go home with the lollies on this one. Honestly. And then going in at the half 2-0 down is just not good enough.
No.
Just not good enough. We played a lot better in the second half, but it took 2 goals down to play that way. We need to come out every game playing that way. I've got a bit of a gripe with, and before I get in, I've got lots of stuff I want to talk about, boys, with United. Hard to pick where to start. But I'll start with like the penalty rule. So how Watford, they retook that penalty. De Gea ended up saving both anyway. But I feel like the first one they retook because a Watford player entered the box before he took the kick. I feel like if Watford don't score there, they should just play on, because it was a Watford player that infringed the box. It should be United advantage. So why don't they just play on?
Yeah. So
that result?
Yeah. So
you know what I mean? Whereas Muzzy, if he had have scored, then retake it because he's infringed the box.
100%. So in for example, the NBA, they have with the free throw rule. If the free throw is made, it doesn't matter because it wasn't influenced by any player.
Yeah.
If the free throw is missed and a player goes early, then it's retaken.
Yeah.
If a defending player interferes as the free throw is taken and then like it's missed or whatever, it's retaken. And same with the offense, because of the impact that it can have, obviously, on the person shooting. It's a really grey area with penalties, and I agree with you. I think it needs to be reassessed. Because at the moment, the rules...
Like what I thought should have happened after that first one, instead of retaking it, it should have been offside against the Watford player, United kick, because he touched the ball after De Gea saved it.
Yeah, and that's the exact same thing.
Yeah. It should have been offside, or it should have been a drop ball for Manchester United.
Yeah.
It's still a grey area because of the fact that the interference can often work against offensive teams. So oftentimes you'll see a player score that and then they'll bring it back anyway. Okay? But sometimes you'll see a player score it and they won't bring it back because in the ref's eyes, it's, well, the ball's gone in. It doesn't matter who went early. It had zero impact on what happened in the game.
Yeah.
Because the ball just went into the goal. Nothing the goalkeeper could do. It's a really grey area, but I tend to agree with you. If the goalkeeper saved it, the goalkeeper, because we've seen numerous times when a goalkeeper steps off his line and then saves a penalty, it's been called back.
Well,
so I don't see why that shouldn't happen.
It's got to go both ways.
Yeah.
I was about to say the same thing. Like, I thought initially that De Gea had stepped off his line or something, even though it didn't look like it. But like, when they go back to retake it, you just go, well, why is that happening? Like, they should only get a certain amount of like leeway for the advantage that they get, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen players get cards for that before as well, because they've done it numerous times. When they've run in an attempt to sort of waste time, they'll run in the offensive players to waste time. And I've seen them hand out cards for it. But I think if it had happened one more time and he didn't give a yellow, that would have been way worse because you got to draw the line there. Like, there has to be some kind of line drawn there, and they've got to sort out that grey area. I agree. I think it's really poor, and this game really showed it. It was really bad.
Yeah. So, like, for me, watching that, I was just livid that he got to retake it. Luckily, De Gea saved it anyway. But yeah, look, just had me in all sorts that day watching that. Another thing I took from this game, obviously Donny. We'll write about Donny. He needs more time. We've been preaching that since he turned up from Ajax.
Well, he was on for 5 minutes and he scored.
Yeah,
5 minutes in.
I just don't know why, when Pogba wasn't even on the bench, so Pogba's out, that he would decide to put Matic and McTominay together and not even look at Van der Beek to start.
But even then, like, you still got Fred there too. Like,
Fred was on the bench, but
but you know what I mean, though. Like, the weeks leading up.
Moving forward, I don't think Matic and McTominay are a good pairing in that sort of mid role. They're just big fellas, and they're too slow. Like, they're both, like, if you got one in there, it's fine because you get one to sort of steer.
I think substituting them for each other works. If you're doing 45-minute halves each, substituting for each other, because Matic, I think, can still give, like, he played really well at the start of this year for United. And
he
done some really
good games. And he's been known to pop off a rocket every now and again. But together, I don't think that's a good mix. So moving forward, I don't think they should be played at the same time together in that sort of role. And, like, just with our defense was just shambles there. Like, Watford players had so much space in that box. And
Varane was out again, wasn't he?
And Lindelof there was one, forget which goal it was. It might have been the 44-minute goal or the 90-minute goal. But the striker sort of coming in, the way Lindelof was defending, he was kind of defending it for a cross, which I suppose you do as well, but you sort of want to cut off the goal too from where this guy was. And he just shoots it, and he makes it off this angle that sort of Lindelof left with him. And that sort of stuff can't be happening if you're a world-class defender. You can't have players shooting off a shot like that from that angle. Obviously after this result, Ole was out. I don't think it was really ever a question after this game.
The writing was on the wall.
Yeah, and considering the lead up,
it's been on the wall for a while, and I think when your team performs that poorly, and like your captain, your captain does a stupid bloody tackle when he's lost control of the ball and then gets himself red carded.
Yeah.
I got a question for Coxie.
Yeah.
Even though I know how stringy it is at the moment at centre back without Varane, and I know how important he is, he's definitely a world class centre back.
Oh yeah.
In terms of Premier League centre backs, he's definitely up there with the likes of Van Dijk and some of those really high quality centre backs.
Yeah.
Even though that being said, would you have dropped Harry Maguire for this game?
Not really, because he seems to have good games for England though.
Against Albania?
Yeah, but that's still a good
I
game.
can have a good game against
That's still a
Albania.
good game.
Like,
They're
But
bronze
you know what I
cards at
mean?
best on FIFA.
Yeah, I
And-
know what you mean. But even
and-
like in the Euros,
Yeah, but it's quite a
he was
different
having a good
role
game.
though. That's the thing is he's going into an England squad that's packed to the gills.
And
Yeah,
it's
that's
well,
true.
it's a well-oiled
Players-
machine.
Yeah,
Mm.
and the players can interchange, and like he's got outside backs just constantly covering for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I
like
think-
quality outside backs
Yeah.
too, like
Yeah.
not one Basaka or like Shaw. Like I know Shaw's was in good form for England too, but
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's that great either.
Yeah.
And like I think like Roy Keane like fucking hit it on the head this week when he said that Maguire keeps getting exposed, and like it doesn't matter if you're scoring goals for England like in a friendly against fucking Albania.
Mm.
Like you need to do your job as a defender, not be a strike pony for
Yeah.
England.
Yeah,
Which I think
exactly.
Snako raised an interesting point about Van Dijk. He's talking about Van Dijk's attacking threat going forward, so off set pieces and stuff like that. But the most important thing I think Snako said about that was what he does for his defenders when he's back. He allows them to be more attacking, which means he doesn't necessarily have to push up and be attacking. He only pushes up when it's a corner or something like that.
Yeah.
It's I don't want to throw any criticism. I just thought it's an interesting question to put in there because I know he's copped a lot of flack. I still think Harry Maguire has the potential to be an awesome centre back, but I think he needs a really, really strong person to be that person next to him. And I think going forward, I would almost give Varane the captaincy.
Yeah.
Well, I've always questioned why they've sort of given Harry the captaincy in that squad. Like, you look at the impact Fernandes had coming in.
Yeah.
I almost thought he would have been named captain this year. And even Ronaldo coming in, I think would be a good fit for captain. And as you said, Muzzy Varane, like he's had experience at, Real Madrid and with France. I think he's great too. I think, like, I know we're going back a fair bit in the pod here, but as Snako mentioned earlier about back to the cricket, about the whole captaincy thing and he's only in the team because he's the captain. Sometimes I think that's a bit of, why Maguire's in the team, because he's a captain, where he's not necessarily getting picked based on form and being awarded the captaincy on a different merit kind of thing.
Well, you know what I think the other thing is, Coxie? Like, just sorry to cut you off, but I think they're trying to justify that 80 million pound tag that they put on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if they strip him of the captaincy and he becomes a bench player and he never bounces back from it, it's a complete failure. But if he just sort of wallows around in mediocrity for a couple of 4 or 5 seasons, it's not as bad. So, and I'm just hoping the next guy. I mean, I know we've got Carrick as the caretaker, which I'll sort of talk about a bit later on. But I'm just hoping that whichever manager comes in after that, he's not afraid to make these calls where, they don't care what status this player is. If you're not good enough, you'll sit on the bench, kind of thing. Because I don't think Ollie's that bad of a manager, to be honest. I don't think he's too bad as far as managers go. And I almost think this sort of, the way the team's playing at the moment, I think it goes sort of further than just Ollie.
Do you think it has to go to the new manager has to be like a structure manager rather than because I feel as though Ollie was much more of a man manager. Like I've talked about it before, tactfully, I don't think he's quite there in terms of his structure or anything. Like, he just doesn't know.
I think that might be experience as well, though.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, so I guess my next question is, like, now that you've sort of missed out on Antonio Conte coming in, who would be your next best option?
Well, I mean, you've got those names that have been thrown out, in the media, like, what is it, Pochettino? They've thrown his name out, Zidane's. I know he's, already got a job, but Diego Simone, I think would do well. I think he'd be awesome for United.
It's so hard to get him out of Atletico, but they love him.
Because he's got that experience. He knows how to make a team play like a team, kind of thing. You know what? And I mean, Carrick he's taken over in the interim. I know Steve Bruce He's sort of one of those sort of classic sort of managers. He hasn't really done a whole lot in his career, but I think he's enough to sort of steady the ship in a way. And I wouldn't actually mind if Keane jumped in, because he's got that passion, and I think we need that, or a kick in the arse for some of those players.
What I was going to say to you, Coxie, I'd have Roy Keane and Gary Neville as his assistant, because at least you know then that they're going to have a bit of passion.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to say, I think Neville's come out and said that he will never manage again after his.
Not after his stint in Spain, mate. He had a terrible time. I wouldn't want him either.
I would almost say if you got Roy Keane as an assistant to like whoever's coming in to sort of be that
random.
Yeah.
Like just to give him like a bit of standards, like because at the minute, like their standards for a club that size is just not where it should be.
Yeah. And just like with like another thing about United, it's sort of, I feel like just because all those board members, they're all bankers as well, that there's been a lot of sort of heat coming out that they're not these football-minded individuals. But then the flip side of it is, boys, that a lot of the time we're talking about sport is now a business anyway. The way clubs are run, it's now a business. So I don't think just because they're not football heads doesn't mean we can't get a good manager in. I think they might do a...
The only problem with is like those sort of bank manager types is like, or like trust funds, sort of like people that are running the club, is that Man United's steeped in tradition of like that working class sort of Manchester. So I think there sort of has to be a bit of give and take there. But I mean,
I think as good as Fergie was for us, I still think since he's retired, we're still in this sort of Fergie sort of
post Fergie.
Just this sort of depression kind of era in the club's history at the moment. And it's great that he's still a part of the board and he's still got decision making on that. And I think he's probably, his sort of pick is Pochettino, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where they go with it, but I think it's going to be a rough rest of the year for us, to be honest.
I think whoever he says you should get, you should go out and offer him double to whatever he asks for and just get him in.
Well, his last recommendation was David Moyes, so and we saw how well that turned out. So
yeah, but he's actually turned out to be a good manager.
He's a great manager. I just don't think fit at the time.
There's a lot of criticism to say that Man U got rid of him way too early.
They did.
Crack. So
when you think about it, like Ollie's had more time than David Moyes did. I think Ollie's had like 1 season or 1.5 seasons.
Yeah, and if you think back like 12 months ago when Ollie was in trouble, or a bit longer, and everyone was like, nah, get rid of him, he's useless. And everyone was like, yeah, you haven't given the other managers a chance.
Yeah.
And they've gone on to be good managers. They've actually given Ollie a fair shake. What's he been for 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah, is that how long he was there for?
Nah, it's probably about year and a half, 2 maybe.
Yeah, well, I thought he was there for a bit longer than that. Yeah. But he's had a fair crack. He's had a bit longer.
Yeah, I think he's been a part of the club for longer than 2 years, for nearly 3 years. But in terms of that managerial capacity, I think it's been over 2 years.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say to you, Coxie, to backtrack just slowly on that Harry Maguire point, the first thing that came to my mind was Henderson last year, Stanko for Liverpool. And him being dropped for Wijnaldum, who was in absolute prime form, even though Henderson was still captain. And he was captain, but he was only coming on, he was only playing like 30-odd minutes or so. Do you think that could have been an option for Ollie with Harry Maguire, or do you think he just had to keep him going?
Honestly, sometimes I don't know if it's even Ollie's decision sometimes with some of these players playing. I think there's other people in that boardroom that say, we spent all this money on Maguire, he's captain, he's starting. Kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? As you said, like it worked out for Henderson, didn't it? He's playing pretty well at the moment. Look, I think he's got this sort of, about Maguire, I think he's almost got like this sort of untouchable kind of mentality. I think he knows even if he plays like this, he's still gonna get a start, get a call up.
Yeah.
The only sort of good thing that's come out of this with that red card, he misses a game. The 1 or 2 games he misses. So now we're going to be able to see how we go without him there as a centre back. The only problem is we won't have Varane either, I don't think. I think he's out for a little bit more.
You're right, mate. You got Phil Jones on the bench.
Varane won't have to. I mean, the centre backs that are there aren't going to have to, cover up for Maguire. So it might actually work out quite well. But as I said earlier, I hope whoever comes in gets this sort of free reign of choosing the side and dropping players and whatnot. But yeah, I think it would have been a good option, Muzz, to drop him. Based off, in hindsight, it would have been a good option, really.
Yeah.
That's right, mate. Phil Jones will come back in to save the day.
What was that, mate?
Phil Jones will come back in to save the day.
Oh, Phil Jones. Forgot we've still got him. I saw him in the background of a picture of the boys' warm-up, and I thought, what's he still doing at the club? I thought we shipped him off years ago.
It's all those back-ended contracts.
No one wants his contract.
Yeah, I would. Send him back to the championship, mate.
So,
well, let's move on. We'll save.
Moving on from the Man United hour.
I was about to say let's save Cox.
You know what, boys? Just before we go, I feel like ever since we've done the pod on Zoom, United have been in shambles.
What do you reckon?
I feel like I've always got something to say about them.
Why do you reckon we haven't gone back to doing it the other way?
Well, maybe. United might start going better then.
Very good. Well, let's save Coxie from a stroke and we'll move on. We had Norwich get a 2-1 win over Southampton. Really not good enough from Southampton to lose to a team like Norwich. Newcastle and Brentford had a 3-3 draw. This is a pretty cracking game, even though they're not good, like two of the lower end teams. And Crystal Palace and Burnley had a 3-3 draw as well.
Good to see Benteke back out there for Crystal Palace. Stay for everyone out there. Stay on Crystal Palace. Expecting big things from them this year. They've been great to start, and I think they'll continue that form. They're a danger team to all the big teams up front. The attractive way they play football. If you're someone new that's trying to get into soccer and stuff, watch Crystal Palace. You'll love the way they play.
Absolutely.
They play just all out attacking football, organised, restructure, and then just go like 2-3 passes and go. So it's always an entertaining way to watch football and very reminiscent of how Vieira actually used to play football. So
yeah,
very interesting how it comes out his manager style.
Absolutely. We had Stevie G and Aston Villa get their first win under the Gerrard management with a 2-0 win over Brighton. With a 2-0 win over Brighton and Hove Albion. Aston Villa looked pretty good in this game, I will say.
Yeah, we did. We looked really solid there, especially late. Like we come home strong. So it was really good just to get the win over the top of them in the end. Extremely happy with our performance.
You're already referring to Aston Villa as we.
So
you're fully on board.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm all in. Let's go.
He's got stock in
Tell you what, Roscoe, as much shit as he gives you about the NBA, mate, it doesn't take him on the jump ship in the soccer.
Oh, mate. As soon as the Liverpool juniors involved.
Liverpool, Villa 1-2 next year, boys. Not this year, next year. But Liverpool will be 1. So
that's only because they're winning more.
Always number 1 in the heart.
Oh, God.
Who let this guy in? Who invited him?
Well, let's move on. Man City had a 3-0 win over Everton. Man City looking really good at the minute too. That top 3 of Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea don't look pretty much unstoppable at the minute.
Yeah. It's continuing on. I threw it out there a few weeks ago that I don't think anyone will get over the top of those 3 teams, and I feel pretty pretty confident in saying that now. So I'm sticking on it.
Very good. Muzzy, you have anything to say about your boys?
No, it was a good win. It was a good win considering we had quite a few players out. Grealish was out. Who else? Jesus was out. He sort of hadn't played, hadn't even warmed up with the team. Raheem Sterling got his first start in a while. Looked good out there. Looked like he could definitely compete. I think Phil Foden sort of came on a bit later on as well. But yeah, we had quite a few players out, so it was good to come out with a good win. Everton had really looked sort of out of form in the last couple of weeks. Ever since that Richarlison and Calvin Lewin and Pickford, they were all injured for that one game. They just looked out of sync, sort of thing. And I thought they were starting to turn the corner, and they just went there. Shout out to Cancelo, had another awesome game. He just continues to show he's just an awesome outside back. Can play either side. He's been playing absolutely awesome for him. And yeah, shout out to Rodri, who just seems to do the little stuff right. He never gets to shine, never gets, stand out as a lot of the players do. He just sort of sits back in that CDM role and plays it well. Just limits his mistakes, tries not to give away the ball, plays good through balls, and just seems to do everything that the position asks of him. I mean, he's the key player that sort of I think Pep needs, and the key player that Pep wants. I mean, everywhere he's went, he's sort of had that Sergio Busquets type of player, which I think Rodri is, just that holding midfielder that just doesn't want any of the shine. It just wants the rest of the team to just shine through. So, no, it was a good win.
Goal that he scored was an absolute banger.
Yeah,
So,
it was a cracking goal. It was a good goal.
It was a beast of a goal.
Yeah.
And then, like you said before, Sterling played well. Just raising those stocks so that when he gets traded out, that they get all the money for him.
And Bernardo Silva continues to go against my words of saying that he's not an out-and-out winger or a midfielder. He's been playing really well. I think he's playing really well, but I'm still not 100% sold on his game. I don't know what it is. I don't have any prejudice towards him. There's nothing like it's just. There's parts of his game where I feel like he goes from zero to hero real quick, which I like the more consistent players like Rodri and it was like I said, good win. No Kevin De Bruyne as well, so good start-up performance for us. So hopefully we can continue it on in the coming weeks.
The only thing I'll say for Bernardo Silva, do you think that's like he's a player of the system though too, like in the fact that he looks really good in that Man City system. Whether or not he can do that outside of that, I think is yet to be proven. But
it's just like he came in the squad like he'd come from the Spanish league and he was like tearing it up. So I think it seems like he's a player of the system, but I think actually when I think he might even feel a little bit shackled playing in the way that obviously the City plays. Like it's a very specific style of being able to play effectively, and I think that it sort of doesn't suit him. So because I think he played really well in the Spanish league before. So no, it'll be interesting to see how they go moving forward.
Yeah, very good. The final game we had, Tottenham win their first game under Antonio Conte with a 2-1 win over Leeds.
Tell you what, not a bad result for Tottenham after getting booed off at half time.
Yeah. So a lot of growing pains. It'll be interesting. Conte will do amazing stuff with this team, and I think he's definitely going to. It depends how much influence he has on who they're going to trade for and stuff like that. But he's already getting a lot of players that didn't have a lot of shine. Like we throughout the whole like first half of this season and end of last season, all we talked about was Kane and Son and their impact on this team. And he's already getting stuff out of players that you just wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely doing a great job. Unlucky for Leeds. Daniel James had a really good game. But yeah, apart from that, they've just sort of looked a bit lackluster. Calvin Phillips not quite bouncing back in this game. So, yeah.
Very good. That nearly wraps it up. Just before we go, though, too, we just had I think we're expecting the announcement this week of Sergio Aguero to announce his retirement after finding out that he's got heart problems. So I think for you, Muzzy, that's probably a big thing, knowing how much he to your club.
Yeah. A prolific goal scorer, like one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Sort of, up there of all time. I think, especially in terms of foreign players, foreign strikers in the Premier League, highest goal scorer in that category. Just an absolute beast. It's sad to see him go on the way, and the way he went to Barcelona and how their struggles had. It's sort of sad to see him end his career that way. No.
Especially when he's still sort of relatively young too. He's only 33, and like we've seen players like him go on to play like another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
at a high level too. Yeah. Zlatan being probably the biggest one too. So
100%.
but no, it's sad for Sergio Aguero, and we wish him all the best.
Yeah.
And I think with that, we'll wrap up episode 63 of the Pick 199 podcast. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. Comment whatever your thoughts are below, and we'll get to you next time.
So, yeah.
Please.